Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tashmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitang Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuttapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunaptan Vitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jai Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Any message, put it in the chat and I will notice it. So we are in this month of Purushottam. As we heard last program last week, This month of Purushottam is the most auspicious month of all. More auspicious than the month of Kartik. So any devotional practices, hearing, chanting, worshiping, praying, giving charity, worshiping your deities, everything done in this month yields unlimited benefit. So we have another week and a half or so. So please maximize your devotional practices, because who doesn't want more benefits? Okay, so since it's the month of Purushottam, and we should know what that word means. Purusha Uttama. Purusha means person. Uttama means topmost, supreme, transcendental. So this chapter, Purushottama-yoga, we are connecting with God, who is known as Purushottam. This chapter 15, as well as chapter 12, which is Bhakti Yoga, are the two shortest chapters in the Bhagavad Gita. Both of them are only 20 verses. But this 15th chapter is very special. So over the years, I have spoken on Bhagavad Gita many, many times. And at some point, I went through the whole Gita and I broke it out into sections. So the first section of chapter 15 I call Understanding Reality and Its Perverted Reflection. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdvamulam Madhashakam Ashvatang Prahur Avyayam Chandangsi Yasya Parnani Yastang Veda Savedavit. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Adashchordvang prasritastasya shaka guna pravridda vishaya pravala adashchamulanyanusantatani karmanubandini manushya-loke. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, and they are nourished by the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. The twigs are the objects of the senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. So what Krishna has explained in this first two verses is an explanation of material existence. Let us continue. Na rupa masyeha tato palabhyate nanto nachadir nacha saprachishta ashvatam enang suviruddha mulam asanga shastrena dridena chitva tatak padang tat parimargitavyam yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuya tameva chadyang purushang prapadye yatak privritti prasrita purani. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. And thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns. And there, Surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. Here, Krishna is speaking about himself as if he's some other personality, because we know Krishna has many, many, many expansions. He has, in the material realm, the three Purusha avatars: Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashai Vishnu, Shirodakashai Vishnu. These are all expansions of Krishna, and they are situated within the material realm. So it is very interesting here. Krishna says, you're not going to be able to actually understand where this tree is coming from, but at the same time, you have to cut it down. Kind of a challenge by Krishna. But he's giving you the weapon, detachment. Now, this detachment actually has two sides. Detachment, the first meaning, is to be not interested, not attached to enjoying this material world. That's one side of detachment. That one is finished trying to exploit or enjoy this material world. And the other side of detachment is attachment to Krishna, which is why he says, surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Throughout Bhagavad Gita, generally, the reference is to Krishna in the heart. That's generally, of course, there are references to Krishna himself, but most of the time, Krishna is referring to himself as Paramatma in the heart, as in chapter 18, where he tells Arjuna, surrender unto him utterly. He's referring to Supersoul. Remember, Krishna as Supersoul has been with us life after life after life. That's why Krishna is our best friend. When we left the kingdom of God and entered this material world, as soon as that happened, Krishna accompanied us. He did not abandon us. This concept makes me love Krishna so much, that he never abandons us. He's always with us, closest thing right inside the heart, as we're going to learn in a very famous verse in this chapter. We're going to find out, where is Krishna? Is he in the head? Is he in the nose? We're going to find out. See, some of you already know because you have studied Bhagavad Gita. That makes me very happy when I see people who know Bhagavad Gita. But the main thing here, from whom everything began, Krishna is Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all other causes. You go back, it starts with Krishna. And then Anadir Adi, he himself has no origin. This is very important thing to understand. You and I, we had a mother and father, did we not? Otherwise, how could we be here? We didn't self-manifest. And your parents had father and mother, back. Ultimately, it starts with Lord Brahma. But Lord Brahma came out of Garbhodakashai Vishnu. And Garbhodakashai Vishnu came out of Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu came out of Narayan, who came out of Sankarshan. And there's more, and until ultimately we get back, Krishna. And who created Krishna? One time, I did a program and somebody said, Prabhuji, who created Krishna? And I said, no, you misunderstand. Nobody created Krishna. He always existed. He's the cause of all causes, and he himself has no cause or beginning. So the message here, surrender. Interesting I like to, when I preach to Christians, I point this out, that in your Bible, my dear Christian brother, Christian sister, Jesus was asked, what is the greatest commandment? And Jesus said to love God. How? With your whole heart, your whole soul, your whole mind. That's surrender. It's all about love. This concept is what definitely convinced me to join, of course, Purushottama, but this concept of love of God is what sealed the deal for me. I love this concept, love of God. All right, let's continue. Nirmana moha jita sangha dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvandvar vimukta sukha dukkha sangaya gacchantya mudha padam avyayang tap. Those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto that Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom. As he said in the previous verse, once having gone there, you don't come back. So here, this verse explains detachment. This is what detachment is. Free from false prestige. I am this, I am that. That's false prestige. From illusion, false bad association. You understand the eternal. You are done with material lust. Freed from the dualities of unbewildered. You know how to surrender. And you heard me say 1,000,000,000 times, it's easy to surrender to Krishna. All you have to do is chant his holy name. Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. You do that, you are surrendered. It's so simple. It is so simple to surrender to Krishna in Kali Yuga, but my problem is I'm lazy. I'd rather do something else. But it's so simple. Just chant. Now in this next verse, he's going to describe a little bit of his eternal kingdom. Nattad basayate suryo na shashanko na pavaka yad gatva nanivartante taddama paramang mama. That supreme abode of mine. So this is Krishna's abode. Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, as you see in the picture behind me. Rosie told me she wanted to hear about Krishna speaking to Arjuna, so I found the best picture I could. Krishna is speaking to Arjuna on the chariot. So Krishna is speaking and he's saying, that supreme abode of mine, his abode, this abode that we heard several weeks ago, we learned in a previous class, this material world is Devi Dham. It belongs to Durga Mata. It's her realm. And then higher than that, Mahesh Dham. And then higher than that, Hari Dham. But this Dham, Krishna's Dham, is even higher. It's the highest Dham or abode. Now look what he says. That supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. No bills. You don't pay any bills in Krishna's abode. Everything is self-luminous. Those who reach it never return to this material world. This is Krishna's assurance. Sometimes people ask me, Prabhuji, you said that we fell from the spiritual world, but if we go back, could we fall again? No. Look what Krishna says. If you're able to make it back, Krishna promises you don't come back. Trust Krishna. Please trust Krishna. If we're able to make it back, you won't return to Placentia or Aliso Viejo. No, you're going to stay. Or Rosie's son, he likes Ram. So he wants to go to Ayodhya Loka. Actually, Ram's planet is just below Krishna's planet. It's like, of all the Vaikuntha planets, Ram's planet is the topmost of all the Haridhams. And all the devotees there, they love Ram. Those who reach it never return. Let's strive for that. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now the next section of chapter 15, now the discussion turns. We heard about the material world. We heard about the spiritual world. The material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. There's a famous picture. At the top of the picture is Krishna's abode with Radha and Krishna, and a scene of Vrindavan. And then there's a big lake, the lake of desire. And on the other side of the lake is the material realm. Now, when you look in the lake, the reflection of the Radha and Krishna is upside down. That's the material world. The material world is an upside down reflection of the reality known as Krishna's supreme abode. That's how to understand this example of the tree that he mentioned in the first two verses. It is a perverted reflection of that reality, Krishna's abode. Okay, so now verses 7 through 11. Understanding the position of the conditioned soul. That's us. Right now we're conditioned souls. Why are we conditioned? We have a material body. That automatically makes us conditioned. Now this verse number 7 is one of the top 10 verses of Bhagavad Gita. So if you're thinking of memorizing this one, big one to memorize. Mamai vangsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha manakshashtani indriyani prakritishtani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. I love this. That means you, me, everyone is Krishna's child. Just like Rosie has very nice daughter and son. The Sanskrit word is angsha, part and parcel. They are part and parcel of you. Okay, so we are Krishna's children, part and parcel of Krishna. Otherwise, how can we have this understanding of God the Father? All religions have this concept of God the Father, and it's correct. Because he is, and even in chapter 14, I know Meena knows. In chapter 14, twice, Krishna says, I am the Father of all living entities. Here he's saying the same thing. They're my fragmental. That means we're little, poquito, poqueño gods. Little. Krishna's the big, and we are tiny. Don't worry, you don't have to be the big God. That position's already taken. Be happy with what you are. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. So those six senses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. These are called the Gyan Indriya, the knowledge acquiring senses. And then the big one, the mind. And look where I'm pointing. I'm not pointing here. This is the computer screen. This is where the hard drive is. Because the subtle body of mind, intelligence, and ego is tightly wrapped around the soul. And the soul is in the heart, along with Krishna. And that subtle body of mind, intelligence, and ego goes throughout each body. So I like to give the example. The subtle body is like your underwear. You have your outer clothes and you have your underwear. Well, we've been wearing the same underwear for the last 10 billion births. It's dirty. It needs to get clean. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya's first instruction, Cheto Darpana Marjana. Clean that underwear. Chant Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the mind, we were in this last week when I was doing my class with Panama, we were studying the first half of chapter 6. The whole first half of chapter 6 is all about the mind, controlling the mind. So the mind, we learned, is very, very powerful. And after Arjuna hears the yoga system from Krishna, Arjuna says, "You're asking me to control my mind? It's impossible. You might as well ask me to control that hurricane right now that's in New Orleans. They have some fantastic hurricane. Yes, the mind is obstinate, powerful, very strong." And Krishna also told Arjuna, the mind can be your best of friends, it can be your worst enemy. We have to, if you want to do yoga, you have to learn to control the mind. Again, what does Lord Chaitanya begin? You want to control the mind? Chant. Chant this Hare Krishna mantra. First thing when you get up in the morning, Hare Krishna. Immediately the mind is controlled. First thing out of your mouth, Hare Krishna. You have begun. Chanting should be started as soon as you get up, not at 10 o'clock at night. Good luck. You have to start early in the day. Otherwise, the mind is going to run away. So, make your mind your best friend. Control it by chanting. Let's continue. Sharirang yadavapnoti yachchap yutkramatishvara grahit vaitani sangyati vayurgandan ivashayat. The living entity in the material world carries different conceptions of life from one body to another, just as the air carries aromas. And thus, he or she takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. So we're all coming in contact with the objects of the senses. Again, sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. These are the objects. And based on the quality of these objects of the senses, we will come up with a certain conception of life. And that conception will determine the next life. So you have to be very careful what you allow yourself to come in contact with. Shrotam chakshu sparshanam cha rasanam granam eva cha adhishtaya manaschayang vishayan upasevate. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He or she thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. So, everybody has a unique set of senses, You all have a unique mental proclivity, okay? And the reason you got the one you have now is because you have been developing it lifetime after lifetime. That explains how we see this phenomena of a 5-year-old child can play Mozart. Why? Because that living entity has been cultivating a certain mentality for lifetimes. You Indian people, you didn't get this birth by accident. You got this birth because in previous lives, you studied the scriptures, you performed austerities, you were pious. That's why you got this birth. You get a body depending on the previous activities. Ukramantang stitang vapi, bunjanang bagunan vitam, vimudananu pasyanti jnana chakshusha. But the foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit the body, nor can the foolish understand what sort of body one enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. Yes, we're all under the spell of the modes of nature to lesser or greater degrees. But one whose eyes is trained in knowledge can see all this. This is why we study Bhagavad Gita. We want to be trained in knowledge. Krishna is giving Arjuna the topmost knowledge. We can take advantage of it, and gradually we can see things as they are. Yatanto yoginas chainang pashyant yatman yavastitam yatanto pi akritatmano nainang pashyantya cetasa. The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try to. So, become an endeavoring transcendentalist and gradually develop spiritual vision. And you get that by hearing, chanting, studying Gita, worshiping your deity, offering your food. You do all these things gradually, you will develop a transcendental type of vision. Now the next section I call Vibhuti, opulence. In chapter 10, Krishna outlined 81 Vibhutis. But now he's got a few more that he didn't mention in chapter 10. Yad adityagatang tejo jagadbasaya te kilam yach chandramasi yach chagnau tat tejo vidimamakam. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of the whole world, comes from me. Yes, those who chant that Om Bhurbhuvasva Tat Savito Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat, you are actually worshiping Narayan in the sun, from whom the sun gets its splendor. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. We already explained this. Krishna is the original cause of all other causes. Gama Vishyacha Bhutani Darayam Yaham Ojasa Pushnami Chosadi Sarava Somo Bhutva Rasatmaka. I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. Krishna is giving you a clue how to become an expert farmer. Follow the moon cycle. The moon is going to nourish your succulent vegetables. Now comes a verse that's very dear to me. Ahang Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninang Deham Asrita Pranapana Samayukta Pacyanyanang Chaturviham. I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities. And I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the 4 kinds of food. So even to eat nicely, we need Krishna. The 4 kinds of food, that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. But that fire of digestion, that comes from Krishna. So there's a fire inside. And when you're hungry, that fire is blazing. That's when you know you're hungry. That fire is there. So we understand everything comes from Krishna. That's why we offer our food to Krishna, and then even before eating, we offer prayers, thanking Krishna for providing us and also for giving us the power of digestion. Because if Krishna says no, you will get sick. So we need Krishna. Now we come to the final section of this chapter, which is actually the yoga of the Supreme Person. This next verse, chapter 15, one of the top 10 verses of all 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita. This is definitely in the top 10. Memorize it. Savasya chahang hridhi sannivishto matak smritir jnanam apohanang cha vedaishcha sarvair aham eva vedyo vedanta krid vedavid eva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart. There it is. That's where God is, in your heart. In everyone's heart. The animals, the plants, the aquatics, all living entities, Krishna's in the heart, especially the heart of human beings. And from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Just see what kind of control Krishna has. That's why when I try to remember something, what do? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. After some time, Krishna says, oh, that's where you put your cell phone. You forgot it. Now I'm going to help you remember. Now, this forgetfulness works in 2 ways. For the devotee, Krishna causes the devotee to forget sinful desires. And for the non-devotee, Krishna causes him to remember all of his lusty desires. See how Krishna works? Because the non-devotee wants to forget Krishna, wants to go against Krishna, Krishna says, oh, I'll help you. You'll never think of me. And I will encourage you to commit sinful activity after sinful activity, because that's what you want. And for the devotee like you, Krishna says, I'm going to help you forget the stock of thousands of desires you had from previous lives. And I'm going to help you to remember me. Let's continue. Dva vimau purushau loke ksharashchakshara evacha ksharak sarvani bhutani kutasto kshara uchyate. There are 2 classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible because every living entity has 4 defects. We have imperfect senses, we make mistakes, we fall into illusion, and we try to cheat. Every living entity, especially human form, has those inherent defects. And in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. You don't have those defects. Uttama Purushottama-yoga Paramatme Udarita Yolokatrayama Vishya Bibartya Vyaya Ishvara. So besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Lord, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining. So that is Vishnu. Vishnu is the maintainer of this cosmic manifestation. Brahma engineers the creation. Shiva destroys it when Krishna gives him the go. Go ahead. Do your dance. Destroy it. Shiva goes, Jai. And he does his dance of destruction. But who's doing the heavy lifting? Vishnu. Because he's maintaining. And in the Sanskrit, Paramatma is there. So again, as I've said, most of the time, Bhagavad Gita is talking about Krishna in the heart. Because that Paramatma is expansion of Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, who lives on the ocean, the Shweta Dweep, in the ocean of milk. The super soul is his expansion. Yasmat sharam atitoham aksharat apichottama atosmi loke vedecha pratita Purushottama. Here is the word, Purushottama. And because I, Krishna, now Krishna is speaking, because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated in the world and in the Vedas as that supreme person. So notice, even in the spiritual world, even though everyone is infallible, Krishna is pointing out still, I am above. So that is always going to be there. That is always going to be there. We're always going to be subordinate to Krishna. So we might as well get used to it. Even if you reject Krishna, even if you say, I don't care, it doesn't change anything, you're still subordinate to Krishna. So the intelligent devotee accepts, okay, I'm subordinate. That's all right. I can still exchange a loving relationship. Now, this next verse is the first verse I memorized as a devotee. I was 23 years old, and I would go out in New York on the subways to distribute Prabhupada's books. So the devotees taught me, we would get these index cards, and we would write on the index cards big verses of Bhagavad Gita, and in between the subway, we would take out our cards and memorize. This was the first verse I chose to memorize. I'm coughing because my wife is cooking downstairs and the fumes are coming up. She's making a heavy chant. Here's the verse. Yomam evam asamudho janati purushottamam sasarvavid bhajati mang sarva bhavena bharata. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. Now, I didn't finish college. I became a hippie. I didn't even last a half a semester. But when I read this verse, I said, doesn't matter. Whoever knows Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting, that much I can say. I am convinced, after I read 6 chapters of Krishna book, after Krishna killed Putana, I closed the book. I said, Krishna, I accept you. I surrender to you. I'm going to join Prabhupada's movement. And that has never wavered. Throughout all this, been over, that was 1973, so do the math. What is that, 44 years? I think so. I am convinced without a shadow of doubt, Krishna is God. He has proven it to me time and time again. And therefore, I know everything. No, I don't know what is the stock market. I don't know this, I don't know that, doesn't matter. What's the value of knowing the dimensions of an illusion? We just read that this material world is a perverted reflection. So even if you knew everything about the material world, you've learned everything about an illusion. What is its value? It has no value. But if you know that Krishna is God, you know everything, my friend. One therefore engages in full devotional service, O son of Bharata. This is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. This is something that is repeated more than once. You prove. It's not just, oh yes, Krishna is God. No. You have to prove it by your actions. And how do you prove it? You engage in devotional service. Hearing, chanting, remembering, praying, worshiping. All the 9 different processes. That is how you prove that you know Krishna is God without doubting. Final verse. Iti guyatamang shastram idam uktang mayanaga etad buddva buddhiman syat krita kritya cha bharata. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures. Wow. This verse that I just recited is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures and is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and their endeavors will know perfection. That is chapter 15. I hope you enjoyed. Let's do a little kirtan. And I'm dedicating this to Rosie's son. Hey Ram, 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 Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Hey Ram, hey Ram, hey Ram, hey Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.